Colombian citizens are mobilizing in the main cities of the country as part of the 29th day of nationwide anti-government demonstrations. In Brazil, unions and social movements mobilized to demand a mass vaccination against COVID-19, as well as urgent measures to tackle hunger in the country. Polling stations have closed across Syria following a huge turnout in this Wednesday's presidential election. From the headquarters of teleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm Gladys Quesada. And now we begin with the news. Colombian citizens are mobilizing in the main cities of the country as part of the ongoing demonstrations in the framework of the national strike, which reached its 29th day of peaceful protest this Wednesday. The National Strike Committee called to carry out the biggest mobilization in Colombia from the municipalities to the capitals of each department this Wednesday in order to strengthen the process of negotiations with the government on the list of emergency petitions. The leadership of the country's largest trade union federation, the Central Union of Workers, which forms part of the strike committee, called to reinforce the protest this Wednesday and also on Friday, which will mark 1 month since the mobilizations began. Among the activities to be held are cultural and recreational events, the banging of pots and pans as part of the evening protests and other peaceful initiatives.
Those in power definitely do not want to listen. That is why we're still here resisting. We're still here fighting every day until the people really make themselves heard.
Hopefully, the arena in which these struggles take place is that of debates, which require effort, which require us to prepare ourselves, which require us to read, to write, to inform ourselves.
We are asking for a better country, for an end to corruption, for them to stop stealing money, and for all of us to have the same opportunities to grow economically and with education, which is the most important thing.
The Inter-American Court of Human Rights has condemned the human rights violations committed by the government of President Iván Duque during the protests that began on April 28th. The statements came after a meeting held in the United States between the Colombian Vice President and Foreign Minister Marta Lucía Ramírez, the President of the Inter-American Court, Antonia Urrejola, and other top officials of the judicial institution. During the talks, the Colombian Vice President refused to allow an international commission to investigate alleged human rights violations in the country during the protest. In response, the court issued a statement reporting the murder of protesters, disappearances, and sexual assaults as a consequence of the disproportionate use of force by Colombian security forces.
We have at this moment the request of the Inter-American Court of Human Rights, the request of Secretary Almagro himself. We have told Secretary Almagro that we welcome all visits, but at this moment we have to wait for the government authorities to finish their task, investigate each case, and organize the plans for the next few weeks for any of the visits. The Secretary's visit that we denied, and the Inter-American Court of Human Rights that we have also said no to.
And now we move on to other topics. On Wednesday, the Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro Moros ratified the call for dialogue with the Venezuelan opposition, which he described as clear, direct, and frontal.
There is a parliamentary opposition in Venezuela. It is an opposition as a clear, direct, frontal opposition must be. But it is also an opposition that has learned to dialogue. We must dialogue, understand ourselves, hear each other. All Venezuela have to listen to even the crudest opinion.
President Nicolás Maduro confirmed his willingness to engage in dialogue with the extremist opposition and put at the table 3 points for the conditions of the same.
A great national dialogue table, I agree that the government of Norway should be involved. I agree that some international sectors should be invited, but primarily are 3 points. The first of all, the immediate lifting of all sanctions and unilateral coercive measures against Venezuela. Second point, the full recognition of the legitimate National Assembly and the powers established in Venezuela. A third point, the return of bank accounts to the institution and of the assets to the institution such as PDVSA, BCB, and other three topics.
Of the National Jury of Elections of Peru, Jorge Salas, rejected the request for his dismissal presented by lawmakers of the Popular Action Party prior to the presidential election of June the 6th. During a press conference held this Wednesday in the capital Lima, the top official of the electoral body rejected the request submitted in the Peruvian Congress by the right-wing party, which will seek to remove him from office just a few days before the presidential runoff election. Lawmakers accuse Salas of having defended terrorists in the past as a lawyer and allowing the Free Peru Party, whose candidate Pedro Castillo is the favorite to win in June, from being able to participate in the elections despite its supposed links to what they termed communist extremist groups. Salas stressed that the move seeks to intervene in the decisions of the electoral authority in a bid to destabilize the electoral process of June 6. The union of the Chilean subsidiary of the BHP Group will strike on Thursday at the remote operations centers of the Escondida mine, the most productive copper deposit in the world, after failing negotiations with the company for labor demands. The strike will affect the remote operations of Escondida and the Spence mine, which are located in the Atacama Desert in northern Chile. The impact of the strike on BHP's operations in Chile was not immediately clear, as the negotiations between the Remote Operations Union and the firm are the first of their kind. Escondida is the world's largest copper mine, and Chile is the world's top producer of the red metal. In 2017, workers at the Escondida mine staged a 44-day strike, the longest in the history of Chilean mining. The unemployment generated $740 million of losses to the company and meant a contraction of about 1.3% of the GDP. We'll take a short break now. Join us again after this.
It is our duty to reverse the damage we cause to the planet. Let's recover our natural ecosystems with actions in defense of the environment. Let's keep fighting for a greener world. Wednesdays, only on teleSUR.
En un mundo en constante movimiento, todos los días se generan nuevos sucesos y es necesario conocerlos. Nos preguntamos, ¿qué hay detrás de cada acontecimiento? ¿Cuáles son las consecuencias y cómo nos afectan? Ante estas preguntas, buscaremos poner el punto en la I.
Dot in the eye. Saturday, only on teleSUR. The life is full of moments. Moments of fight. Moments of hope. Moments that transcend. Moments that you can live in. teleSUR documentaries. Sundays, only on teleSUR.
Welcome back to From the South. This Wednesday in Brazil, unions and social movements mobilized to demand mass vaccination against COVID-19, as well as urgent measures to fight hunger in the country. Protesters demanded that government authorities speed up the procedures at a time when the country has reached 16 million confirmed cases and more than 450,000 deaths since the beginning of the pandemic. Demonstrators also demanded proper economic aid, since what has been established to date by the government is not enough to cover their most basic needs. Despite these demands, President Jair Bolsonaro continues to downplay the risk of the pandemic and refuses to apply measures to stop the spread of the virus, which, according to social movements, has contributed to the severe health crisis affecting the country. In Bolivia, the vaccination program against COVID-19 is moving forward. As of this Wednesday, vaccination was extended to people aged over 40. Health authorities said that urban public transport drivers will be included in this process. Health authorities also reported that this stage of the coronavirus vaccination campaign will be implemented throughout the country as efforts continue to curb the spread of the virus. In the last 24 hours, Bolivia registered more than 3,000 new cases and 100 deaths. At an international level, the Bolivian government is promoting initiatives in favor of equitable distribution of vaccines against the coronavirus, as well as calling for the lifting of vaccine patents to allow for greater manufacturing. And Bolivia received over 100,000 doses of the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine this Wednesday, obtained through the COVAX mechanism. The shipment was unloaded outside Bolivia's National Institute of Health lab, which has been set up as one of the vaccination centers in the capital, La Paz.
President Luis Arce has already said, by mid-June, we will have another 1 million vaccine doses arriving from Sinopharm. We still have pending the arrival of 100,000 doses of Sputnik 5 that are coming. And today, vaccines have arrived from Pfizer thanks to the COVAX mechanism. At this moment, our country still has vaccines to continue vaccinating. There is currently any department that has 0 doses available to administer as first doses.
This Wednesday, a new shooting took place in the United States at a California rail yard serving Silicon Valley when 8 people lost their lives, including the attacker. Santa Clara County Sheriff spokesperson Deputy Russell Davis said the suspect was an employee of the Valley Transportation Authority, which provides bus, light rail, and other transit services throughout the country. 2 patients were transported to Santa Clara Valley Medical Center. 1 person was pronounced dead upon their arrival, and the other was in critical condition. The attack was the county's 2nd shooting in less than 2 years. A gunman killed 3 people before killing himself at a popular garlic festival in Gilroy in July 2019.
This is a horrific day for our city, and it's a tragic day for the VTA family. And our heart pains for the families and the co-workers, because we know that so many are feeling deeply this loss of their loved ones and their friends. Now is a moment for us to collect ourselves, to understand what happened, to mourn, and to help those who have suffered to heal.
The United Nations on Wednesday expressed concern after Mali's transitional president resigned while he and the Prime Minister were in detention, following their arrest by the military earlier this week.
And head of the peacekeeping mission, El Ghassim Wane, took part in the meetings that the ECOWAS delegation was having. The mission continues to support the efforts of ECOWAS and calls on all actors concerned to cooperate fully with a view to a rapid resumption of the normal course of the transition within the framework provided by the Charter. It is crucial that this crisis be resolved urgently, as it constitutes an additional challenge that would negatively affect the implementation of the peace agreement. For his part, the Secretary General continues to follow the situation in Mali with concern.
Representatives of the Pacific Island territory of New Caledonia arrived in France on Wednesday for talks on the holding of a referendum on independence. For the first time in over 2 decades, New Caledonia has a government made out of mostly of pro-independence politicians, which analysts said could edge its toward finally becoming independent from France. The territory, a collection of islands some 750 miles off the eastern coast of Australia, is the world's 4th largest producer of nickel, an industry dominated by foreign companies, with France's Eramet conglomerate as the largest nickel mine owner. New Caledonia is one of France's 14 overseas territories, all of which play a crucial part in its global economic and military maritime dominance. The talks are set to run until June 3rd, focused on the timing and implications of a third referendum, which Paris said to present a confidential paper warning of stark consequences of the territory. The anticipated referendum follows votes in 2018 and 2020, the last of which saw the population narrowly reject independence.
We did not come to negotiate. We have not come to negotiate. We have come to begin the dialogue, and we have come first to listen to the state, since we are here at the invitation of the Prime Minister, and we have come to deliver to the state the vision of the Union Caledonian on the question of the exit from the Nouméa Accord, and especially on the conditions for the preparation of the sovereign state.
No, today we have had no commitments from the government. We are cautious for the moment. We will see what happens. We are waiting for the government to be courageous once again. On the Caledonian file, we need a strong state and a courageous state.
And we have more news coming up after a final short break, so stay with us.
Hola, ¿qué tal? Sean todos muy bienvenidos a Vidas. Hay lugares donde el arte se unifica con el orgullo de los pueblos. Y esos lugares están llenos de colores, alegría, pasión, tradiciones, arraigo, valor y entrega.
Real Life. Fridays. Only on teleSUR.
为了保持身体健康，我冥想。
Para mantenerme saludable, yo corro.
To keep myself healthy, I study.
Για να διατηρηθώ υγιής, τρέφομαι σωστά.
Para mantenerme saludable, yo bailo.
Para mantenerme saludable, yo purifico mi espíritu a través del cuerpo. ¿Y tú?
Get your body. Tuesdays, only on teleSUR.
Una travesía para descubrirnos. Buscamos conexiones perdidas.
No nos queda otra que luchar, porque no tenemos nada que perder.
Realmente es por todos.
Recorremos el mundo con Reportajes teleSUR.
Saturdays. Only on teleSUR.
Welcome back. Polling stations have closed across Syria following a huge turnout in this Wednesday presidential elections. Voters cast their ballots in more than 12,000 polling stations, and results are expected to be announced by Friday evening, 48 hours after the polls close. Current Syrian President Bashar al-Assad is expected to win a 4th term in office. The head of state is facing former State Minister Abdallah Salum Abdallah and opposition candidate Mahmoud Meri. Syria's Higher Judicial Committee for Elections announced the extension of the duration of voting for 5 extra hours until midnight in all the polling stations in light of the huge turnout by voters. According to the electoral authorities, the voting day ran smoothly and without any incidents. Tensions mounted in Iraq's capital on Wednesday after the arrest of a militia commander on terrorism charges, prompting a dangerous showdown by the detainees' supporters and the Iraqi government. Stepped-up security measures were implemented in the capital, Baghdad, on Wednesday evening, and soldiers were seen patrolling various parts of the city. The confrontation began after security forces arrested militia leader Qasim Mahmoud's Mosleh at dawn based on a judicial investigation and arrest warrant on terrorism charges, according to a military statement. Mosleh is the head of the Popular Mobilization Forces, a state-sponsored umbrella organization composed of approximately 40 militia forces, formed to defeat the Islamic State in Anbar province. Shortly after the arrest, forces affiliated with the PMF, which maintains offices inside the heavily fortified Green Zone, were deployed surrounding Prime Minister Mustafa al-Karimi's headquarters. An Israeli court on Wednesday postponed a hearing in a case that could see 2 Palestinian families expelled from their homes in the occupied East Jerusalem's Silwan district so that Jewish settlers can move in. Wednesday's court session was delayed after the Palestinian families petitioned the Attorney General to weigh in on the matter, their lawyers said. The delayed hearing on the dispute comes less than 3 weeks after the similar case in the city's Sheikh Jarrah district sparked widespread protests that were heavily repressed by the Israeli occupation's police forces. Dozens who gathered outside the court to protest against the move to evict yet more Palestinians from their homes were violently repressed by Israeli police.
Courts have double moral standard and 2 systems, one system for Jews, one system for Palestinians. I do not have a lot of hopes about the decision here in the court, but we are here in order to bring this voice, this resistance to the whole international community and to say it's political and it's national.
There are 88 families in Bad Alawa area in Silwa district, so a total of 700 people. The size of the land that they want to seize is 5 dunams. 1 dunam equals 1,000 meters squares and 200 meters. We will not evict, not under any decision. We will remain in that area where my father and mother were born and where we were raised.
I think it's wrong to throw people out of their homes. Like, everyone who lives in Jerusalem should have the same rights, and rights to a place, homes are a human right. Housing is a human right, and I don't think that it's okay that the government is taking away homes from some people, like, just at all.
Despite the announcement of a ceasefire after Israel bombed the occupied Palestinian territory of the Gaza Strip for 11 days, South Africa's African National Congress organized a protest outside the United States Embassy to voice condemnation of the continued U.S. support for Israel in its brutal attacks on Palestinians.
Kawe, the provincial secretary of the African National Congress in Gauteng, led the ANC members and its alliance partners to hand over a memorandum demanding the United States to act on Israel and stop it from attacking Palestine in Gaza. He also demanded the lifting of sanctions on Zimbabwe. He told those that were gathered here that Israel was enforcing apartheid on Palestinians, just like what happened here in South Africa before 1994.
Today we gathered here at the U.S. Consulate, Johannesburg, to picket on behalf of the ANC members and ANC leadership, on behalf of the people of Zimbabwe, on behalf of the people of Palestine. We're here to raise the concerns about the American role and American inconsistency in the world intervention for peace and stability in various countries. The ANC in Gauteng opted to bring Zimbabwe and Palestine into one, just as a demonstration of how America is inconsistent, how America is refusing to intervene. Zimbabweans are not killing each other. The children of Zimbabwe are not being killed but die of starvation because of the British and US sanctions imposed on them. While on the opposite side, the leadership of Israel continue to enjoy support of America. And while they are murdering children, old women, pregnant women every day in Gaza, in Tel Aviv, in Palestine in particular, and therefore we felt that we shouldn't sit down and do nothing. We shouldn't also talk about solidarity. We should do something and act. And that's the purpose of today. And indeed we have met the political commissar of the ambassador, and we have impressed upon him to give the ambassador our memorandum, and that after 7 days we will write a correspondence to find out what is it that America intends to do. The little they can do between now and 7 days is to condemn Israel. That would be the first step. The second step is to use their power and authority in the UN and sanction Israel. And that's why we strongly feel that something must be done.
The African National Congress promised to protest at this United States Embassy every Friday to put pressure on the United States to act on Israel so that the Palestinians can have a lasting peace. Reporting live for teleSUR English, I am Clever Banganai, Johannesburg, South Africa.
And we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please follow us for all the latest news on social media. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. And also, you can catch up on our shows on our YouTube channel. For teleSUR English, I'm Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.